Hi, I'm Jeff Stokes. Welcome to Jeff's Daily Dose of Encouragement. Today I want to encourage you to don't do a Balaam. In Numbers 23, and it goes on to the next chapter as well, but in the start of this particular episode, you'll know the story of Balaam, who was a prophet, and he could hear from God, but he had a lot of other things going on. And Balak of the Moabites sent princes to him to try and get him to come and curse Israel, and so it says here after these guys come to, in verse 12, and it said, and God said to Balaam, you shall not go with them, you shall not curse the people, for they are blessed. So God gives them an instruction, and this is what we've got to be careful. You know, when we hear from God, once God's spoken to us, we don't want to do what Balaam did. Further on, the princes Balaam refused them, and then further on, these princes came again and offered him a really big deal in verse 17. For I will promote you unto a very great honour, and I will do whatsoever you say unto me. Come therefore and pray me, curse me this people. And so then Balaam says, wait, and I'll go back to God again and ask him. And in verse 20 it says, and God came to Balaam at night and said to him, if the men come to call you, rise up and go with them. But yet the word which I shall speak unto you, that shall you do. So, did God change his mind? No, he didn't. And Balaam had some issues in his heart that he was getting tempted after God had said, no, don't go with them. Balaam had no right really to go back to God and ask him again. It was sort of like, maybe God will change his mind, so I'll go back and ask. No, but God did a different thing this time, but because he went back to, later on in the story, he went to Balak, but instead of cursing the people, he blessed them. But initially, he wasn't supposed to go at all, and of course, because he didn't, God had to send an angel to stand in the way, and that's when his ass spoke to him and had to tell him to stop. So, you know, Balaam was pretty intent on going and doing things, and he wanted to get there because I guess he might have wanted the rewards or whatever. But we're not to be like that, you know. When God tells us to do something, and there's all sorts of situations sometimes we think, did God really say that, didn't he? You know, and all that sort of stuff, and we'll try and test the waters, but we've really got to listen in our hearts and be clear on what God's saying, and then not let our own desires try and override what God said, and then keep going back to God and saying, you know, it's fine, you might check something if you're not sure about it, but when you've heard what God said, we need to just obey it. We don't want to be like Balaam. It took quite a lot to stop him, really. And, you know, he could have gotten himself killed, but God was really merciful to him in a way. So that's my encouragement for you today. Don't be a Balaam. If God tells you something, don't keep going back and saying, God, you know, what's the story now? Have you changed your mind? You know, ordinarily, God does not change his mind. If you don't know the Lord Jesus Christ, if you confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For whosoever shall confess that Jesus is the Son of God, God dwells in him, and he in God. God bless you. Have a great day.